And welcome, my dear students. In this video I am going to discuss governance and public policy in Pakistan. uh, we'll also explore challenges, reforms and successes found so far. Governance is very important and it shapes everyday life, from access to education, healthcare, justice and safety. Strong governance directly affects citizens' well-being. Regarding Pakistan's complex landscape, a history of military rule, centralized bureaucracy, and fragile institutions continues to affect public policy outcomes. Poor governance has led to frequent crises, energy shortages, natural disaster management, and weak service delivery. And it's also of global relevance. As a nuclear armed country with a young population, Pakistan's governance model impacts regional stability and global development goals. Uh, there are certain objectives to be achieved. The first one is to unpack the challenges, to explore actionable paths to strengthen public policy through better governance, and to highlight reforms and success stories. So far as governance is concerned, governance is not just about the capacity to deliver services, it is also about democratic accountability, empowerment, and freedom. According to Amartya Sen, governance means how decisions are made and implemented. It includes the system, rules, and institutions through which those in power use their authority to manage public resources and serve citizens. In simple words, governance is about how those in power use their authority to manage public resources and serve the people. According to the World Bank, governance is not about making the right decisions, it is about ensuring accountability and service delivery when decisions are made. Governance affects every aspect of a citizen's life. For example, regarding healthcare, strong governance ensures that hospitals are well funded, staff are trained, and service reach remote areas. In case of education, effective governance can lead to better schools, trained teachers, and updated curriculum. Regarding justice, rule of law is a pillar of good governance. Without without rule of law, corruption flourishes, legal processes are delayed, and citizens lose trust in the courts and police, further weakening the social contract. In case of infrastructure, roads, water supply, and electricity will require policy continuity and transparency. Transparency. In the context of developing countries like Pakistan, governance is not just a theoretical concept but directly shapes whether people live with dignity and opportunity. It determines if public services work efficiently, if leaders are held accountable, and if citizens are treated with fairness. What strong governance means? Uh, in case of strong governance, policies are not only created but implemented effectively. Institutions deliver on their mandates, corruption is minimized, and public trust is enhanced, and resources are allocated fairly and transparently. There are six pillars of good governance, and those include participation, rule of law, transparency, responsiveness, equity and inclusiveness, and accountability. Uh, there are some impacts of bad governance. According to Amartya Sen, no famine has ever taken place in the history of the world in a functioning democracy. So, what are the bad impacts of what are the impacts of bad governance on the economy? The first one is delayed policy implementation. The second one is widespread corruption, weak institutions, erosion of public trust, lack of accountability, failures in crisis management, and social and economic inequality. So far as governance in Pakistan is concerned, it has been a long-standing struggle. Since independence in 1947, Pakistan has struggled to establish a strong and equitable system of governance. The country inherited a colonial bureaucratic structure which is focused on control rather than service. Instead of reforming it to be more citizen centered, successive governments have learned on centralized power and top down decision making. Political instability has been a major obstacle. Military coups in 1958, 1977, and 1999 disrupted democratic process. Although these regimes introduced some reforms, they were often short-lived and lacked public participation. Civilian governments, on the other hand, have faced corruption, inefficiency, favoritism, preventing consistent policy direction and institutional growth. Local government systems, essential for empowering communities, have been inconsistently applied. One administration promotes decentralization, the next reverses it. This inconsistency weakens grassroots impact. According to Dani Roddick, a notable economist, he once said, governance matters more than geography or natural resources. Pakistan's primary challenge is not a lack of talent but poor governance. Without stability, transparency, and public trust, even well designed policy cannot succeed. So, let us have a historical example of governance in Pakistan. So, we start with Ayub Khan's regime. Ayub Khan's military rule is often cited as a period of relative economic growth due to technocratic governance and centralized planning through the 5-year plans. While some sectors like agriculture and industry saw significant growth, the lack of inclusive governance and suppression of political dissent created social unrest. The failure to incorporate democratic principles ultimately weakened the legitimacy of the policy process. So far as the Bhutto's nationalization policy is concerned, under Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's government, major industries were nationalized as part of a socialist agenda. Although intended to reduce inequality and empower the working class, the absence of efficient governance mechanisms led to bureaucratic inefficiencies, corruption, and a decline in productivity. This highlights how even well intended policies can falter without strong governance structures. Then we have the case of Islamization during General Ziaul Haq's era between 1977 and 1988. General Ziaul Haq ruled Pakistan from 1977 to 88 after toppling the civilian government and declaring martial law. His regime marked a turning point through an aggressive Islamization agenda aimed at legitimizing his rule. Zia introduced Sharia-based laws such as Hudud ordinances, Qiyas and Diyat laws, and established the Federal Shariat Court. State institutions, including education and media, were reshaped to reflect Islamic values, and religious rhetoric became central to government. Supporters view this as a revival of Pakistan's Islamic root, while critics argue that it politicized religion, restricted civil freedom, and marginalized minorities. Zia's policies deeply influenced Pakistan's legal and political institutions, embedding religion into the state structure and shifting civil, military, and religious dynamics for decades to come. So far as the era of General Pervez Musharraf is concerned, a notable effort in this era was devolution plan. One of the more significant governance reforms in recent history was the devolution of power plan under General Pervez Musharraf, which aimed to decentralize authority by empowering local governments through the Local Government Ordinance 2001. While it improved local level participation and service delivery in some areas, the lack of institutional capacity and political will from provincial elites led to its gradual erosion after the end of military rule. We will now discuss revival of democracy in 2008 to the present. There was a lawyers' movement in 2007 up to 2009, triggered by dismissal of Chief Justice like Iftikhar Chowdhury by General Pervez Musharraf, mobilized civil society, lawyers, and media. and that led to restoration of judiciary and democratic pressure. Then there were 2008 general elections that ended Musharraf's military rule, and Pakistan's People Party formed government again. It marks civilian comeback in governance. There was then 18th constitutional amendment in 2010 that strengthened parliamentary democracy, removed presidential power, promoted provincial autonomy and fiscal decentralization. It increased political participation, rise in voter turnout, civil protest and media watchdog role, awareness of governance rights among citizens, and so on. Then ongoing challenges in Pakistan, objections related to military influence, electoral controversies and governance gaps, need for institutional strengthening and public trust. Then there are certain challenges in governance of public policy in Pakistan in the present era. Corruption and patronage networks. Corruption is pervasive in both political and bureaucratic systems, undermining public trust and efficient service delivery. For example, we take the Al Qadr Trust case by Imran Khan and Bushra Bibi. In 2025, former Prime Minister of Pakistan Imran Khan and his wife Bushra Bibi were convicted in the Al Qadr Trust corruption case. They were sentenced to 14 and 7 years in prison respectively for allegedly accepting land from the real estate tycoon Malik Riaz in exchange for provincial legal cover after 190 million pounds, which is equal to 60 billion Pakistani rupees, that was repatriated from the United Kingdom's National Crime Agency. It was alleged that the repatriated money, which was meant to be deposited in the national exchequer, was instead used to benefit Malik Riaz and fund the Al Qadr University, a project associated with the former First Lady's Trust. Weak institutions. Pakistan's public sector suffers from over-centralization, inefficiency and lack of merit-based recruitment. For example, Sindh Public Service Commission recruitment controversy. In 2024, the Sindh High Court ordered the withdrawal and re-advertising of the entire recruitment process for BPS 1 to BPS 15 positions in Sindh's public sector. This decision was promoted by widespread allegations of nepotism, corruption and procedural irregularities within the Sindh Public Service Commission. Candidates who had invested significant time and resources into the application process were left disappointed, highlighting systematic flaws in the recruitment system. The Sindh High Court's intervention underscored the urgent need for transparent and merit-based hiring practices to restore public trust and ensure efficient service delivery. Limited public participation. Policy making often remains top-down with limited engagement of civil society, academia and marginalized communities. Then there is limited public participation in Sindh's local governance. In January 2025, Transparency International Pakistan released the Sindh Local Government District Performance Assessment 2024, highlighting significant gaps in public engagement within Sindh's local governance structures. The report revealed that many citizens were unaware of the functions and responsibilities of local government bodies. Moreover, public meetings at Union Council, Tehsil and district levels were infrequently organized, limiting opportunities for community input in decision-making process. This lack of structured engagement has led to deficiencies in basic service delivery, including water supply, sanitation, and infrastructure maintenance. The findings highlighted the need for empowering local governments and enhancing citizen awareness to foster more inclusive and participatory governance. Judicial and administrative overlaps. Ambiguity in jurisdiction between federal and provincial governments creates conflict in policy implementation. As an economist, Darren argues in his book Why Nations Fail, countries with inclusive institutions thrive while those with extractive institutions stagnate, and Pakistan is the best example of the latter. Federal provincial taxation conflicts hindering foreign investment. In 2020, the Overseas Investor Chamber of Commerce and Industry highlighted significant challenges faced by foreign investors due to overlapping tax jurisdictions between federal and provincial authorities in Pakistan. The lack of coordination led to instances where both the Federal Board of Revenue and provincial revenue authorities demanded taxes on the same transactions. For example, a service provider registered in Sindh providing taxable services to the recipient in Punjab was liable to pay sale taxes in Sindh, while the recipient was also required to withhold and pay sales tax to the Punjab government. This duplication resulted in legal disputes, increased compliance costs, and discouraged foreign direct investment. The OICCI emphasized that such complexities create an unfavorable business environment and called for harmonization of tax laws to facilitate investment. We will also give some recommendation for the improvement of governance. We need to strengthen institutions, because institutional strengthening means giving public institutions the tools, training, and independence they need to work better. When institutions are strong, they can hire on merit, make fair decisions, and serve people without political pressure. This builds public trust and ensures the rule of law is respected across all levels of government. Decentralization, which means giving more power and resources to local governments so they can respond directly to community needs. When people have a say in local decisions, policies become more relevant and effective. Strong local governments also improve service delivery and help build trust between citizens and the state. We also need to have digital governance that uses technology to make the government services faster, more transparent, and easier for people to access. Expanding e-governance tools like online portals, mobile apps, and digital payments can reduce corruption and improve efficiency. It also allows citizens to engage more directly with public institutions and voice their concerns. Policy research and data use involve gathering accurate information to create better policies that address real issues. Civil engagement and participation is also important because it means involving more citizens in decision-making processes to ensure their voices are heard. This can be achieved through awareness campaigns, public consultations, and creating platforms for people to actively participate in policy development. As former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan once said, good governance is key to tackling poverty and driving development, while on the other hand, civic engagement plays a vital role in making governance more inclusive and effective. Finally, governance is both the foundation and the driver of effective public policy. In Pakistan, the path of public policy has been closely shaped by the quality of governance across different political and military regimes. While there have been signs of progress, the large picture reflects weak institutions. For the country to achieve sustainable development and inclusive growth, a fundamental reform in governance is urgently needed. Transparency, accountability, and citizen participation must be integrated into every stage of policy making. This not only builds public trust but also ensures that state policies are responsive to real needs. As Kofi Annan said, good governance is perhaps the single most important factors in eradicating poverty and promoting development. Similarly, Thomas Jefferson noted, the care of human life and happiness is the first and only legitimate object of good governance. Pakistan's future lies in reimagining governance as a people-centered and inclusive system. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Kindly subscribe to the channel and don't forget